You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
Welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Wow, it has been a changing week. This has been, what happened to summer? It went from summer to winter, just like that. So it's been moist. Actually, the planting, the digging, the soil is easier to work with than ever. The maples have turned the ash or beautiful purple. You're starting to see all the fall colors showing up in the mountains of Arizona. This is also the time that you want to plant those things. If you're from the deserts, the south, where you just don't see a lot of that northern or midwestern fall color, or the mountains of Arizona fall color, and you want a beautiful new aspens or new maple or new ash or new, this is the best season for planting those, for choosing those, because you've got a tremendous selection at the garden centers. It's also a good time in that as the plants turn this magical fall color, they also start to root. They'll root for the next month or so. So that's really what you want. Plant and then have it start rooting right away. If you're planting now, though, this kind of weather we've had this week, it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes we'll get dry spells through winter. If we get a dry spell, you'll need to supplement water that new planting. That goes for anything that's been planted this year, really. So don't turn that system off next month. We're talking 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks from now. Your landscaper is going to go, I'm going to shut down the system, and then expect plants to go for the next 5 months with no water. You may have to drag the hose out, water by hand, especially if you're going to plant that beautiful new Colorado spruce or a new Austrian pine or a new maple. You'll want to water that to keep it healthy. It's going to form those new root hairs, but then if that ground gets crusty and dry and just bone dry, those new roots can be shriveled up. And so you'll lose that growth. It would have been such a benefit to have that additional 6, 8, 10 inches of root growth this fall. Double down on that next spring. And by next summer, you've got a super hardy, super healthy, can take on the heat, take the wind, take the whatever summer's got for us, it'll take it because you planted it in the fall. This is a tremendous time to be planting. We've also, what you'll find is your garden centers are bumping up their winter evergreen inventory because we need to bring that inventory in now so we can acclimate it. And we're predicting how much inventory we're going to sell through winter because once it really gets cold, I'm talking the new year or so, 2019, new year 2019, you can't start shipping plants into the mountains of Arizona then. If they're truly dormant and deciduous, that is, they've lost their leaves, and you bring them, those are okay. But if you're bringing more Nandina or heavenly bamboo or red leaf photinia or silverberry, eleagnus, cotoneaster, these broadleaf evergreens, if you bring those in from a warmer climate into your market, into your, let's say, Flagstaff or White Mountains or Prescott or Cottonwood, wherever, if you're bringing those plants in and they go into this deep cold, they're just not used to that yet. They're not acclimated. So we're trying to predict. We're letting the computers tell us, okay, Ken, you're going to sell 300 red tip photinia between now and February 15th. Order that many. We're bringing them in now so that we can acclimate them. And that way the landscapers, the homeowners that are new to the area, they can come in and still plant, be confident that that plant is used to our climate, used to our cold temperatures, warm temperatures, and they can plant it with confidence. So you'll see an increase in the varieties and choices of evergreens at your nurseries right now. It's a great time to plant. Also, you'll see some big, like this week I got some really big Colorado spruce, pines, these big Christmas tree looking, central leader, swooping branches kind of plants, deodar cedars, redwoods. There's a variety of sequoia that will actually grow in the mountains of Arizona. We've got those in now, and bigger sizes than you wouldn't be able to find other seasons, like say in spring or summer of next year. It's a good time. The negative, if they're big, they're heavy. I mean, it's ridiculous. Some of the soils, I can't believe where they're building houses right now. It's crazy. In fact, I just had to put a 70-pound jackhammer on the planting truck. The 35-pounder, which is the normal cutesy, just pops right through the clay soils and things. It wasn't hacking it. The guys were begging for a bigger hammer. Went, go for it. Get the bigger impact hammer head on it too. Get the spade that really knocks out the clay soils, chips away at that rock, gets it out of there. If you're having a big tree delivered to your house, consider having your gardener, your planter, your nursery plant it for you. They'll have the tools. Hopefully, they're going to have the tools on the truck. They're going to have the right digging bars, they know what size hole. So with a big, let's say it's a 35-gallon spruce tree. That thing is probably 30 inches wide, the root ball, and about 18 inches deep. So when you're planting that, you'll want that hole to be about the same depth as the bucket, about 18, 20 inch. You're testing the soil underneath to see if you think that soil will drain or not. So if you've dug enough holes in the mountains of Arizona, you kind of get a feel. You just know, oh man, that jackhammer's bouncing off the bottom of that hole. This thing will never drain. We're digging a big bathtub here. If that's the case, we'll take the jackhammer and try to fracture that soil underneath so we break it up so the water will start seeping into the next soil band underneath the roots of that new tree. You'll need someone that can make some calls like that. And you're going a lot wider. It's not going to be 30 inch. It's going to be 60, 70 inch wide holes because the roots go sideways. They don't go down. And so you're digging this hole sideways and pulling out the junk, anything bigger than a golf ball of old roots and rocks. You'll find bricks, timbers that the builders chucked in, buried in the front yard. You want to pull all that stuff out. So you're left with a screened or screened type of soil. So now the roots can go through that. Then you want to mend that and stake it and get it going. There's a technique to planting. The main thing, the reason I don't plant larger plants in my own backyard, even though I am very capable, I know what to do, I meet the planting crew out there with cookies and tea and water, and I'll pop a chair and kind of go, hey, this is great. Hey, guys, what you doing? What you doing this weekend? I'll converse with them, but I'm not planting it because it's too heavy. I've had 2 back surgeries. I can't feel my right foot. It's hard to mountain bike with it because it's kind of like going around. I don't want to injure myself any more. So I have anything over, let's say, a 15-gallon size plant. I have the planting crew do it. And it's worth every dime. I mean, that price at our place, everyone has a different way of charging for that. Sometimes it's just the labor. You just have a guy's power in, throw the plant in the ground, and leave. So their price is pretty inexpensive. Ours includes everything. So we're throwing the mulch, the food, the stakes, the fertilizers, the root and grow, everything. More time in the hole. So half of that cost typically, at least the friends I hang out with that own garden centers, they are about half that price is going to be the product, all the stuff it takes to plant it correctly. And then the rest of it's going to be, it's just as expensive to roll guys in a truck and have them land and get all the stuff out and go plant. It's time for the people to go do that. It's not free. You need to pay for it, but it's worth it. For a big plant, especially. If you've got a gardener, sometimes your mow and blow, your maintenance guys, they don't necessarily know that much. They know there's leaves that dropped on your crushed granite and you need to blow it up. They know that much. But how to plant an actual tree may or may not. There you might, like if you're buying a plant here at Waters Garden Center, we have these planting guides. Ask for the planting guide when you go to your nursery. It tells you exactly how big the hole should be, how many stakes, where they should be placed, how much mulch, how much food. It tells you exactly in proportions. You might ask for one of those. Sit down with your camp chair where they're going to plant this thing. Give the sheet to your gardener, your maintenance guy. Sit there, take them cookies, take them some some water and to just advise and chit-chat and make sure they do it right. So get the planting guide or have a professional with these big plants do it for you. Be right back. Got a lot in store in the show, but don't change that dial.
You're listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, also known as the Mountain Gardener. Ken can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Listen each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to mountain landscapes.
Hi, Lisa with the plants of the week and our Coral Queen Kale.
This unusual plant has deeply serrated foliage with deep green outer leaves and a very dark crimson center.
She is definitely the queen of the autumn garden.
This crop has huge feathery leaves that form large heads the size of beach balls.
Very, very pretty and all for under $10.
Waters Garden Center, the place for people who love very pretty plants. They love to shop. You know how to find us.
Hi, Lisa with the plants of the week and her ivory feathers pampas grass.
The most majestic of all grasses, this dwarf variety grows only 5 feet, making it easier to care for.
In feathery bloom now with long ivory plumes held tall above the flowing green foliage.
At $39, this perfect pampas grass is ready for fall planting while supplies last.
Only grown here at Waters Garden Center, the place where people who love ivory feathered grasses, they love to shop. You know where to find us.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
And we are back with Lisa Waterslane in the studio. She brings your garden questions, just what's going on in your neighbor's yard. Sometimes you get some great insights with that. So welcome to the studio, Lisa.
Thank you. Always good to be here.
It's always good to be here. Always good to be back.
Yes.
So Moab was calling last week. Mm-hmm. So we took our side-by-side, met a bunch of friends up in a camping spot, and ran around and jeeped all over Moab, Arches National Park.
Beautiful.
Our
Absolutely
first time
beautiful.
really there. So we've been to Zion and Bryce and the canyon, Grand Canyon. But first time in that part of southern Utah. It is magical.
Very, very pretty. Enjoyed it. Lots of rain, which is okay because it made it muddy.
The positive is kept the dust down, which is kind of nice. So you're not sucking in side by side. In a Jeep, you're enclosed with air conditioning and probably filters in the cabin. And side by side, you're just sucking every molecule down your lungs. So that was better.
That is true. That's true. Yeah. But you had a lot of mud to clean off of that.
Yeah, it's okay. It's kind of fun. So your best part of the entire trip?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. We went to the spot where the movie Thelma and Louise was filmed when the car goes off the edge there. Beautiful. Just every bit of it was just really nice.
My favorite part was we jeeped on the back side of Arches National Park. It's where no one goes unless you, and it was pretty intense. Made it up. You go into the park. And there's no gates, there's no Forest Service. It's just there's hundreds of cars through the main gate, and you're the only one. You come over the crest, you're dirty and muddy, and then whoa! I think it was Balancing Rock.
Right,
the one that came in right at Balancing Rock, right in the middle of the park.
Yeah,
you just kind of go, wow. That is so cool.
And the sun, because it rained a bunch. So right when we came over that little spot there, the sun was shining through the clouds.
Yeah.
So it's like everything was alight.
It's almost like a beam was right down on that section of arches. So it's just pretty.
Yeah. Very, very pretty. We enjoyed it.
We didn't go in. We took a separate day to just do the whole day, picnic, just kind of do some hikes within Arches National Park. If you've not been, there's over 2,000 natural bridges. These are the ground is washed out from underneath this huge cliff, and all that's left is this natural bridge, this arch that goes across. There's 2,000 of them. They're everywhere. Mm-hmm. You get to hike on them, not on them, under them.
You're not supposed to hike on them.
Yeah. So anyway, that was fun.
It was fun.
So garden questions. We're back to the North Country of Arizona, no longer Utah. What do we got?
Well, it's kind of like while we were gone, we missed fall. We went from summer to winter. So questions kind of went that way. Andrea would like to know, so her pots, the petunias, sweet potato vine, froze, gone. So she pulled them out. Her question is can she leave them empty with just the soil in them through the winter, or does she need to dump and store them? Dump the soil and store the
Well,
pots?
it depends on what kind of pot. So there are, if it's Mexican pot, or that charred, it looks like charcoal kind of stuff. If it's red terracotta, if it's not a good clay, not a dense, high-fired clay, you need to dump them and store them dry. If you're dealing with good American clay, real heavy, dense, real fine, some of the best quality in the world kind of clay, or Asian clay, Malaysian, some of the high-fired Chinese clays, these are very thick, high-fired, good quality clay. They will go right through winter, and you can actually garden in them through winter. You could put pansies in, take the petunias out, put your pansies, violas, Dusty Miller, snapdragons in. You could plant lettuce and kale and snapdragon, or lettuce, kale, cabbage, that kind of stuff through winter. You can harvest right through winter, so you can garden in that kind of clay. If it's glazed, typically that means it's coming out of Asia. It's a higher fired type of pottery. If it's not glazed, probably not. You're probably going to have to put it underneath a deck or in a shed, in a garage, to keep the rain out. What happens is that moisture gets in the clay, and as it freezes, it expands, and so now it starts to crack or flake your pottery, and that's not good. So you got this $50 pot, and it just broke because not even gardening in it. It broke because the clay got moisture in it. A good quality clay, if you got it from us, all of our clays, we specialize in outdoor containers that can winter right over with us. You'd be fine. We specialize in bigger pots. It's resort size or commercial size or larger home type size pots. If you've got those, you're probably fine, good to go. So did I answer that correctly?
I think so.
She didn't give me enough info to go on, so I'm kind of shotgunning around.
I think one thing we probably ought to caution people, because I know we've had a lot of people moving in, that Talavera pottery, that real pretty, brightly colored Mexican pottery does not hold up well here.
Yeah.
So definitely you want to protect that. And the other thing is your bird baths, whether they're really expensive ones or not, they tend to get that ice in there then you get that cracking from the ice. So definitely turn those upside down, or just make sure you're dumping them at night.
What a lot of folks do with the bird baths is they'll come in, they'll take especially a real decorative, pretty artsy one. Those are expensive. You can't replace that bowl. Right. The bowl is what will get it. If you can take the stand and put it onto a stepping stone, so the soil isn't touching the bottom of that container, it'll keep it cleaner, and it'll keep moisture from wicking from the soil into the base, so you won't get damage. And then take that top piece off and store it in the garage. And we have a number of people that come into the garden center and get a glazed saucer of all things. We sell more saucers as bird baths, bird feeders, than we do for saucers underneath pots. But they're glazed or high fired. They're way less expensive, and they'll silicone, or they'll just set it on top of that base that they had. And when the frost is all over, they'll go back and swap it out and put their decorative base for when they're growing next year.
Right. Okay. Next question is from Mike. He bought one of the Southern Magnolias, the Alta Magnolia, this year, put it in a large pot. His question is, should he pull it closer to his house under the overhang to protect it in the wintertime, or keep it out where it is?
I think you keep it out where it is. Now, what will happen is if you pull any of that borderline stuff, or if you just want it to be looking really good all the time, don't want to think about damage, if you pull plants next to your house, it's amazing how much heat your house throws off, especially the south side, east side. Any sunny side of your house is going to be more, it just reflects some heat, and it retains that and releases it at night. If we go sub-zero, which we are not predicting this year, but you never know. Never believe the weatherman. That's all I know. If we go really, really cold, single digits, 0 degrees, pull it next to the house. Most years, like we've got 2 of them, they're planted in the ground, but they're right there by the house. We don't really think about them. They're fine. They always winter over. They're very old. I think his would be equally as tough. The thing to watch with your containers, since this is a container, sounds like container questions. make sure if you're gardening through winter that you water those plants. If you get a cold snap, let's say it's January, and the weatherman's going, oh my gosh, it's going to be a big storm, it's going to be a cold one. People run to the grocery stores and they empty the shelves and they go and they hunker down and they hibernate for a week while this storm passes through. If you see that kind of event, make sure that you're watering your plants before the cold comes. A hydrated plant will go through that cold snap, no matter how cold, because it's moist. So the antifreeze within the structure of that plant can move back and forth. If it's a dry plant, this is kind of counterintuitive. If it's dry, you would think, oh, it'll stay warmer. Wetter it'll start shivering if it's wet. Plants don't shiver, only we do. They're here. You keep that moisture in that plant, especially container plants, because they dry out a little faster. They drain faster. It's easier to grow in them because of all those factors, but you just want to make sure you moisten those plants up so that they can take that cold. If you put them up against a house, it takes a little pressure off, but an Alta magnolia, this evergreen, beautiful southern magnolia that takes the cold, it takes the cold. Don't worry about it. Just keep it hydrated. With that, we are out of time. We'll be right back with more on The Mountain Gardeners with Ken and Lisa Lane.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Lisa with the plants of the week and our red wall creeping vine.
It's said good fences make good neighbors, but fences can be downright ugly.
This rich green climber is turning fire engine red through October with blue accent fruit. It's really pretty.
And very fast growing, and when planted at 8-foot intervals, covers a boring fence within a season, all for just $39.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love good neighbors, they love to shop.
Hi, Ken with the plants of the week and our Cheyenne Spirit coneflower.
This new native is an exclusive wildflower sure to delight and inspire.
The flowers change from purples to orange, then fade into a Cheyenne sunset.
Leave some of the seed head so that it spreads throughout the garden. Adds winter beauty that also feeds the birds through winter. And just $17.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love exclusive flowers, they love to shop.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
Now, fall is the absolute most important feeding of the entire year. This is, if you're only going to feed once your landscape, you should be doing it more than that. But if you're only going to do it one time and then let the landscape starve the rest of the year, this is the one you do not want to miss. I thought I'd go over the different kinds of fertilizers. And I'd start with fertilizer stakes. I was at some of the competitors. I'm making the rounds, making sure we're in the marketplace, competitive. So I'm going out. There's lots of fertilizer stakes, these hard spikes that you can drive into the ground, and they're supposed to last a year. Don't use those. I stopped selling those 20 years ago. And here's why. In the mountains of Arizona, where we have very alkaline water and rocky soil, that fertilizer stake will actually stay there for a year or more. So it's slow to release. The problem is, where are the main roots on your plants? It's almost impossible to find out. And so if you had a lot of topsoil and that bubble around that fertilizer stake were to permeate and seep and wick away and actually fertilize a larger area, volume of soil, it would be okay. But first of all, they're expensive because of the number that you need to drive around a larger tree. It's just difficult. One doesn't do it. You're going to need 10 around a big Arizona cypress or a big spruce or a big maple. You're going to need more. And then where do you place them? You'd be better off crushing that thing up and sprinkling that underneath the canopy or the drip line of that tree or that shrub than you would to drive it in the ground. Because at least then that granular that you ground up would slowly permeate, break down, go through the soil, and the plant would pick it up. And you've got the entire radius or underneath that drip line fertilized properly. That's called a synthetic fertilizer. These are chemical-based, petroleum-based, typically, fertilizers. Scott's and some of these Orthos, these brand names, Arizona. There's several of them that are chemically based. They're made from petroleum. You're sprinkling those things around, and basically they release when water hits them. They go into the ground and then fertilize the plant. That would be better than a spike because at least you know where it's going to go. The negative, they release too fast. So within a month, all that fertilizer's pretty much been released with the rains, gone into the soil, and sometimes it's in a form the plant can receive, sometimes it's not. So ammonium sulfate is better in the summer. Ammonium nitrates are better in the winter. So sometimes plants can pick up, I didn't want to go this deep into fertilizers, but basically it's temperature related. When it's cool, the plants can pick up certain kinds of food, and they can't. They're summer foods. So it's kind of like burgers and dogs. That's for a 4th of July weekend. But I ain't going to have that outside in the yard when it's 20 degrees out. I'm going to have steak and potatoes or chicken soup. And so really that's the benefit of an organic fertilizer or all natural. So I made a fertilizer years and years ago. It's a huge following. It's called All-Purpose Plant Food. Not a very original name, but it's 744 all natural. And the main ingredients are cottonseed meal, which lowers the pH, adds a nitrogen source. Bird guano, it's poop in a bag. It's got kind of an earthy smell. It's pelletized, so it's easy to spread, but it smells earthy because of the cottonseed meal and the bird guano. Sulfur, iron, some other stuff. So that's the ingredient. As those organics break down, they break down much slower over a very long period of time, typically about 3 months. So it's not releasing all the food at once. And so the plant can pick up more of that food than, let's say, an organic would just release all at once. It's picking up parts of it, and the rest of it is flushed away and gone. That's a synthetic. An organic, the plants can pick up virtually all of the fertilizer and use it, so you get less waste. You get longer feeding than you would a synthetic. I highly recommend using organic granular fertilizers for most of your plants out in the landscape. It's kind of like an antibiotic. I mean, it's going to make the plant hardy, healthy. It's like chicken soup for the soul. That's what an organic fertilizer is, fed in the fall of the year. If you've not done that, I cannot emphasize this enough. The benefits for the mountains. And it's because you folks from the Midwest, you poor folks from the Midwest, you just don't, 8 foot of topsoil you no longer have. We've got 8 millimeters, if any, topsoil in your landscape. And then we put this fabric over top of the soil, and then we put rock on it to make sure no organics ever get down into the soil again. You're going to have to fertilize more often up in the mountains of Arizona, just because our soils, we just don't have a lot of topsoil. So that's where the nutrients are held. So you're going to have to fertilize it more often. So I suggest 3 times a year, minimum, 4 times if you have a lot of evergreens. It'd be Easter, if you're thinking holidays, Easter, 4th of July, and Halloween. That's when you fertilize. New Year's for lots of Colorado spruce, deodar cedars, pines. And then I would say for your native evergreens, they would greatly benefit from fertilizing with that all-purpose plant food, and anything that's stressed, also give it soil activator. This is truly the antibiotic for plants. Things that are stressed by scale on your pinyon pines, bark beetle on your ponderosas, they're greatly going to benefit from the food and the soil activator. Anyway, I went way deeper on that subject than I wanted for one segment, but hey, now you're an expert. Be right back.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona, with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Ken with the Plants of the Week and our fire alarm, red mums.
With a name like Fire Alarm, you'd expect large red blooms that take a fire hose to put the glowing petals out.
Just provide a little garden soil for a flaming red that will last and last.
But wait, there's more. This Fire Alarm mum comes back again for even bigger show next year and just $3.99.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love red mums, they love to shop.
Hi, Waters with the Plants of the Week and our Regal Petticoat Maple.
If you love maples but want superior leaf color, then this is your shade tree.
Regal maple leaves are glossy green on top with a velvety purple underside.
Through autumn, the petticoat leaves turn gold on top and red on the bottom side. I mean, wow!
This is a great shade tree for just $99.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love Regal maples, they love to shop. And we are back in the studio with Lisa Waters Lane. She comes in and just shares her garden tips. So I share mine, she shares hers, and in the whole show, hopefully you get three main points. We always want to have 3 points that people could take away and use in their gardens that week that'll make a difference right now in their gardens. And so I think it's valuable to get Lisa's opinion on everything.
Always.
But also, not just kids and house and business, but also dogs and kids and business. And everything else. And the garden. Yeah. I don't even know where I was going with that.
I don't know. You're just kind of rambling.
That's what I do. That's what I do when a microphone's in front of my face.
Ramble?
No. So anyway, welcome back to the studio, Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of topic you got for us?
Well, I'm going to talk about, so we got trucks in this week. So we've got a lot of our fresh evergreen shipments in. So I was going to talk about that. But I wanted to do a quick little blurb on something else because we were over at friends' houses last night and they were talking about, their petunias, geraniums starting to go. And their question was, well, can I put anything in there? Can I put anything new in those pots for the wintertime? And I think sometimes we forget there are so many new people moving in and they're not used to the seasonality of our environment. So yes, the question is yes, you can definitely put your pansies in, your violas, snapdragons, dusty miller. There's so many things that can go in right now and give you pretty color throughout the whole winter season. And they're tough. They can handle the cold.
Yeah, definitely. And we've been changing ours out. So the potato vine looks terrible right now. So it's not dead, but it looks terrible. And it's in front of the house when you come. It just needs to go. If it looks bad, you've got a $500,000 house. You should not have something that looks terrible that greets you every day when you come home. So it's just time to put some fresh colored stuff and it will bloom right through winter.
Oh, definitely. And the sooner you get it in, the better rooted it's going to be from when those really cold temperatures come. Yeah. So time to do it. Time to get rid of the ugly stuff and get the new fresh stuff in.
Yeah, even if it's overgrown, like the pumpkins I pull. We, of course, harvested all the giant pumpkins. They're in the front of the house. But the snails and slugs and the hail had just beat up the leaves. They just had to go. I pulled them all out and said, that is it. You're out of here.
Right. That noise was Vincent, if anybody heard that. Vincent's in the office with us, trying to find a comfortable place to lay down, and
Vincent,
there isn't one.
The dog. Not Vincent, the creep in the shadows of the, darker places of the nursery. We got
That's
our
true. I
dogs
should
in the studio with us.
Know. Yeah. Anyways, I thought I would explain that. But yes.
And his name is Vincent Price, from the actor from the 1950s and 60s.
The B movies, the scary B movies. Pretty much.
Anyway, what else?
I was going to talk about the new trees. We have had a heck of a time finding some really nice Austrian pines. Yeah. And Austrian pines are a pine tree that just do so wonderfully here. Get big. So if you're looking to fill a big spot, an Austrian pine is an excellent one to put in, fast growing, and would you call it drought hardy?
Oh, yeah. It's related to a ponderosa. So once you get up to size, it can naturalize or just you can neglect it and it will still look great.
Right.
It's kind of like a ponderosa. only it holds its foliage right down to the ground, whereas a ponderosa, when you plant that, you're basically planting a trunk. I mean, the foliage is way up there. You don't see it. Yeah. This big pole that's in your yard. Here in Austrian keeps its appeal right down to the ground. It's much easier to decorate. It's a better landscape pine, but still long-needled pine.
What would you say the size is? I want to say 30,
yeah, 35, 30, somewhere in there. Kind of half the size of a ponderosa. But once it gets above, I don't know, 20, 30 feet, you just don't see. It's just big.
It's just big.
It's up there. Just more height doesn't help you.
True. So we did get some more of those in, and we've just had a heck of a time finding them, but we got the truck. It's here. Also, we got some really pretty Vanderwolf pines in. And Vanderwolf it's I don't know, everybody calls it the teddy bear of the pine trees because you just want to hug it because it's really soft. But it also has like a variegated needle to it with the silver underneath and the green on top. So very, very pretty out in the yard. Yeah. Not as fast a grower.
No, I would say it's even lower water user, lower care, and smaller than some of your other pine trees. Probably the least amount of care other than maybe a pinyon pine or a ponderosa. But it has that two-toned leaf. So it's very pretty. Blue, silver, blue, white needle. And every needle has blue on the top, white on the bottom. So it has this really interesting glow to it that's unique to a Vanderwolf pine.
And very soft. It's funny, I'm out there showing it to people and they start stroking it.
Yeah, I do too. I go by them. I like to touch them. So they're just pretty trees. They're adapting really well. If you kill that one, it'll be from overwatering. So it's or heavy soil that just doesn't breathe, doesn't drain. It's not going to like that. It likes tough, dry, crusty kind of environments. That's where a Vanderwolf really shines. I'd say Austrian pine as well.
Yeah, definitely. The other one that we've gotten in is the Oregon green pine. So Oregon green is a little bit shorter needled, a little bit smaller. It's a cousin to the Austrian pine, but also stays much more compact. So I think it tops up at around 15 feet, I want to say.
Yeah, maybe a little taller, but it's somewhere in there. So yeah, it's a dwarf. It's a half the size of an Austrian, and it's cute. It's fuller. It's thicker. It's more layered. All these are central leadered. With big swooping branches that come off of that. So it's a classic pine tree, a lodgepole kind of pine tree that it adapts well here. And it resists the bark beetle, ips beetle, flathead borers, the things that eat the natives. Yeah. These varieties you're mentioning are more robust, more hardy for our environment.
Right. We also got in some big Alberta spruce, dwarf Alberta spruce. So Alberta spruce are those cute little Christmas tree type, keep a really cone shape to them. But they're hard to find big because they grow so slow. Yeah. But we got some gorgeous ones.
They probably, gorgeous. I saw them, they're chubby too. They're kind of cute, perfect Christmas tree kind of shape. These are the size. This is a variety you want to buy the size you want to keep because it'll be years. Those are probably 15 years old and they're standing 4 or 5 feet tall. Right. They grow maybe 3 inches a year if you're lucky. But these are the ones you want to put in front of your either side of your front door at those posts going up to the porch at either side of the garage doors. These are ones because you plant them once in a pot or in a raised bed or in the ground, and they just don't overtake their space. Right. Whereas if you put an Austrian pine in there, 2-3 years, it's overpowered its space. You got to do something with it out in the yard.
Right. The little ones, we got a bunch of little ones in too. Speaking of pots, they look really, really cute in pots with your pansies and violas around it. So you made me think of that. So
Alberta spruce. Yeah. It's a great, every yard should have at least one Alberta spruce.
Definitely. Great for holiday decorating too. Sequoias. Now let's talk a little bit about sequoias because I don't think people realize they grow here.
Yeah. The tallest tree in the courthouse is a sequoia. There's a variety that grows here. If you look back and overlook the courthouse of Prescott, there's a couple of them. They're giants. They overpower by another 30, 40 feet above the elm trees that are growing. People just don't see them. Right. So, yeah, it's a great tree for here.
There's another really big one as you're coming into town where Yavapai College is. Yeah. There's another great big one there. So
at the golf course, they've got some. So in those beds in the parking lot, those are sequoia or redwoods.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I think a lot of people don't even think about them, but they're another tree that is very susceptible to over watering.
Yeah, that's true. So plant it, get it rooted, and then neglect it and watch it grow.
But don't neglect it too
Well,
much.
yeah.
So it is a good time to come look for, if you're thinking about a living tree for Christmas, maybe, I would say don't wait too long, because I think they're going to go fast this year.
Yeah, I think in fact, the team is going to put together a living Christmas tree kind of package kind of thing you could give as a gift to someone. We're selling more living trees than we do cut trees anymore. So we sell hundreds of cut trees, Christmas trees in December. Well, this is the front load for living trees, living Christmas trees and evergreens now. So this is a good time you can pick off the best ones.
There you go.
That's good. Ken and Lisa Lane and the Mountain Gardeners. We'll be right back.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona, with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Lisa here with the plants of the week and our sizzling summer daisy.
This snow white daisy is a natural in the summer garden when tall white flowers are desired.
Highbrow enough to use in estate settings or amassed into formal beds surrounded by boxwood for under $12.
In entertainment areas, this sizzler literally leaps up under a full moon, easy to grow, and prefers planting during the monsoon.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love summer daisies love to shop.
Hi, Ken here with the plants of the week and our fragrant low sumac.
The cute foliage is fragrant when brushed against and utterly detestable to wildlife of all kinds.
A knee-high native that takes any abuse, loves wind, blistering hot sun, and rocky hillsides.
At $39, this hardy shrub is ideal for owners of investment and commercial rentals.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love native sumac, they love to shop. And we are back on The Mountain Gardener, your host, Ken Lane. That's one of the beauties of having a garden center here in northern Arizona is, especially in Prescott, we got the most interesting people that live here. And they come in and they shop plants, and you get to talking to them, and you go, whoa, that's a great story. We have to capture that on air. And so I've got two gentlemen, John Murphy and Daniel Blake, who are locals. They're here. They're one of us. They got this great garden vision, great garden projects going, and I thought you would take an interest in that as well. So welcome, John, and welcome, Daniel. Glad you're here in the studio.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so now this is the Make 100 Healthy Foundation. Now that caught my ear in a time when jalapeno peppers are coming out of Mexico with E. coli all over them, and then you put them into Safeway or Fry's or Costco, wherever, and they can kill you. This happens 2 or 3 times a year. This is becoming a problem. Massive agriculture. Your goal is bring it local.
Absolutely. We want people to bring back the art of backyard gardening, local gardening, and why it's so important to get your nutrition from food that you can control.
That's right.
It's really not just a luxury anymore. And the whole idea of backyard gardening was a big thing back in World War II. Victory gardens were a patriotic duty, but
That's right.
It went away, and now we have 40% obesity. So our Make 100 Healthy Foundation mission is to help fellow Americans grow 1 million organic vegetable gardens over the next 5 years, and we're kicking it off right here in Prescott Lakes.
Prescott Lakes. Prescott, right here.
Absolutely.
One of us. I mean, these things don't happen. Usually that's New York City or Chicago or someplace. So now you've also got, so the Make 100 Healthy Foundation has got this goal, but then you partnered up with Daniel Blake, which is an old friend. We've been going back decades. I know he's a gardener. And I know, Daniel, you have traveled the world helping people farm better, smarter. I mean, in third world countries, that's been your passion. Now you're back home and you partner with John. You're going to share that expertise with us. How does that partnership work?
Well, Ken, when I got the opportunities to leave the country, it was always because there was a great need. There were children that were sick, and they needed to have better food. So I had an opportunity to go down and teach. Now I want to do it here, local.
So that's perfect. So now you're going to set up gardens, and then you're going to bring your expertise. That'd be like, you're even smarter than I am as far as gardening go. You can make that microphone start to grow if you put it in the dirt. you're going to help folks. You're going to help us to start growing our own foods here locally.
That's right.
How do you
Whether
do
it's a
that?
school garden or a backyard garden.
Yeah. So tease me. What's something that maybe we could do in our own backyards? A listener over in Pinetop Lakeside or Kingman or Flag could use right now that would maybe make their garden game a little better.
Well, Ken, I get closer to the soil, and I start digging the soil with a digging fork, and I start adding organic matter to it and gypsum and other minerals to make it alive.
So what kind of organics? Like horse manure? You use chicken poop? You use gypsum or fertilizer? What do you dig in with that fork? And what happens when you hit a boulder?
Dig around it and move it.
I was just sharing earlier with the audience. We just bought a 70-pound hammer for the planting truck because the rocks are they're like growing, or where people are building are on rock piles more and more. It seems like there's less soil there. It's hard to grow things without the soil.
Well, I would add gypsum is important because all the nutrients piggyback onto the gypsum and to the calcium to get into the plant. So you got to have the calcium, and that's the right form of calcium for Arizona soils. And then I add organic matter. And then I start adding nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium, and I work that soil. I get close to it. I add air to the soil.
So is this square foot gardening, or is this row gardening, or what would you prefer if you want to maximize? Let's say I've got a backyard, and I'm only going to have 100 square feet, a 10 by 10 area, raised bed, because I don't have any other soil elsewhere. So I made it out of timbers or block or whatever. What would be the formula to make that go?
The formula.
We're not formula, but
let's just say
some tips that would. I don't want to use the native soil because that's not good stuff, is it?
Well, that's true. Some of it isn't very good, but then some of it is. So
Yeah.
different parts of Prescott have clay, and most people don't like to dig in clay, but clay holds your nutrient better and it holds your water longer.
True.
So all I got to do there is add my organic matter to it, and that kind of makes it sweet and healthy.
Gotcha. And what's your favorite plant to grow? What's the most? Let's say you're third world country. You're helping. Where have you helped grow or help third world communities eat better?
Mexico, Belize, Honduras, and Africa.
Gotcha. Wow. Okay. So 2 continents. That's pretty good.
That's true.
And growing. Pardon
That's
the
true.
pun. Now you're going to third. This not that we're third world, but you're here in America helping us grow smarter.
That's right.
What was the main crop that they like to grow there? Is it rice and beans, or what are they mainly doing?
They grew every vegetable you can imagine.
You can.
That's
okay.
right. Absolutely.
Gotcha. Okay.
Not just tomatoes.
Yeah. Or I was thinking peppers or something like that. There's a spicy pepper that I love in Mexico. It's so good. So we've got an event, foundation coming up.
Yes.
Daniel's going to share some of these tidbits of what do we need to do to grow better. Well, tell us about the foundation. And you've got some events coming up in November and October. You're setting your first garden up.
Yep.
It's all happening. It's starting.
It's really happening. And just to touch on the way Daniel and I got together, I had this big vision to help bring backyard gardens, get people healthier. And then I met this guy, the gardener of destiny.
Yeah.
And so it's like a higher power thing.
Right.
So how this has evolved is we do have our event on Veterans Day. It's November 12th. At 5:30 p.m. at the club at Prescott Lakes. It's our first kickoff, Victory Garden kickoff. It's a gala event. Daniel's the keynote. We have Dr. Stephen Brown, who lives in Prescott Lakes, who talks about why you should get your nutrition from foods rather than supplements. And I'll be talking about longevity. I'm known as your Make 100 Healthy guy because I'm all about trying to make people healthy and live a long life. The event also features the entertainment of the Michael Soma Project, and the tickets are $100 a piece. It's all charitable, but through the generous donation of great sponsors like Waters and others, Waters Garden Center, we have a limited amount of buy one, get one and half-price tickets. You could call me directly, John Murphy, at 908-309-7046, or you can email us at info@make100healthy.com. It's a full charitable deduction, and our goal is to grow 1 million organic Victory Gardens across the country, and we're going to bring backyard gardens, and we're going to teach the next generation of gardeners how to be able to plant and grow their own foods.
This is great. So it's an evening event at Prescott Lakes.
Yes.
So if you don't live in Prescott Lakes,
it's open to the public. It's open to the public.
Perfect. So Lisa and I'll be there. That's perfect. We're going.
Awesome.
So
Thank
then
you.
You're going to go longevity. I like the sound of that.
Yes.
By eating right, with not supplements.
That's right.
But by the right
Eat clean,
foods.
live healthy.
There you go. And then you've got entertainment. And what was the third guy? There was another person.
Dr. Stephen Brown.
Gotcha.
He's a renowned orthopedic surgeon, and he wrote a book called Complex Medicine, Simple Wisdom. And he'd have people come in and want to have knee replacements, hip replacements, and they're 50, 60 pounds overweight. And he said, let me write a contract. If you lose the weight, I'll do the operation. Oftentimes, if they lost the weight, they didn't need the operation.
Sure.
So he's a guy with great integrity, and he's been a wonderful neighbor and a great friend, and he's very, very knowledgeable in nutritious eating. Him and his wife have a garden in their home, and it's just going to be a great event. And, the other event, which is coming up very soon, October 24th.
Okay.
Wednesday, October 24th at 3 o'clock, we have our first Prescott Lakes Gardening Club meeting, and the response has been overwhelming. In fact, we saw you in Prescott Lakes, and you must have had 100 people there.
Yeah.
I mean, you were pretty surprised yourself. I mean, you're a big popular draw, but even though there was 100 people there, we have over 25 people that have already said they want to be in our gardening club, and we're inviting novices, hobbyists, and master gardeners, because we're all one community working to bring backyard gardening and healthy eating together.
So that's October 23rd at 3.
October 24th.
24th. Excuse me, let's get that right.
And you have to be a resident of Prescott Lakes.
You do.
Yes,
okay,
for
so
that
Prescott
one,
Lakes.
yes.
It's only for Prescott Lakes folks.
Yes.
And then, Daniel, you're going to share some of your tips with that? Or you're going to set your first garden up there? Or? Okay.
Well,
He's going to show a 3-step process of how you take a seed from germination to replanting to planting to bring outdoors. So it's pretty cool. It's a
Perfect.
secret sauce.
Perfect. That's great. That's what it takes. That's good. Well, I wish you guys the best. That is really good stuff. So mention one last time the foundation and
the Make
your
100
gala.
Healthy Foundation charity gala event. It's our Victory Garden kickoff. It's on Monday, November 12th, the actual Veteran Days. We're paying respect to some veterans, and it's from 5:30 to 8 o'clock. It's $100 a ticket. It's all tax deductible, but we do have a limited amount of half-price tickets. Just mention Victory, and you'll be eligible to get half-price tickets. We'd love your support.
Numbers and email?
Yes, it's John Murphy, 908-309-7046, or email at info@make100healthy.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, John. Appreciate it. So there you go. You're in the know. Be right back with more on The Mountain Gardener.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona, with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Lisa here with the plants of the week in our yellow Echinacea.
We crossed a coneflower and black-eyed Susan and created an impressive new bloomer.
Free-flowering daisy-like blooms are cheery and loves full sun.
The 3-inch flowers are bigger, showier, and longer lasting through the heat of summer at just $14 while they last.
You'll only find them at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love new summer bloomers, they love to shop.
Hi, Ken here with the plants of the week in our Goldfinger Potentia.
A versatile knee-high shrub that charms with its cheery buttercup gold flowers.
A truly hardy perennial that loves to bloom in the hot, dry spaces in the garden.
With long fingers of fine foliage, it's an attention-getting foundation plant.
Deer, javelina, rabbits, no problems. They don't like the flowers or the foliage, and just $14.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love cheery summer shrubs, they love to shop.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now, welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
So this week's gardening class was container gardening. So that's the 20th. Next Saturday, the 27th, we have winter wellness, how to keep plants healthy through winter. We'll go deep into fertilization, mulching, how should I put a top dress, pruning. What should you be doing to keep plants healthy and robust right through winter, so you set the stage for some great winter evergreen color and next spring's flush of flowers and leaf growth. So we're going over all the details with that. Most importantly, mark your calendar for November 3. November 3rd, I'm going to have a great pumpkin carving or great pumpkin slashing, harvesting. We've got a giant pumpkin. It's it's close to 500 pounds here at the Garden Center. It's as big as a VW Beetle Beetle. We are going to cut that thing over. Have you ever wondered what's inside of a giant pumpkin? I mean, a really big pumpkin. Is it gooey? Is it gross? How thick are the sidewalls? How big? How many seed does this thing have? We're going to do that November 3rd, right after the garden class. November 3. That garden class is the fall to-do list. That's what do you do in the fall? What do you plant? How do you take care of how do you water? All those details for the fall to do. Right after the garden class, we're going to slice this pumpkin. I'm going to take a Sawzall or a sword, I'm not sure, or a chainsaw, and cut this baby open. We're going to see what's inside. I'm going to harvest all the seed. Anyone that shows up gets a seed, so you can grow a giant pumpkin from this same strain next year if you'd like to. And then I'm going to take the rest of the seed and I'm going to give them to the farm. I'll have them grow out the rest of them. So those will be available. That exact genetic of that pumpkin, it's going to grow one this big. It's going to be available next year for you. So I'll have, a couple hundred of them, I hope. Pumpkin plants, probably a 1 gallon plant or something. Giant pumpkins that you can buy next, probably May or so. I don't know. But that's kind of November 3rd. It should be a hoot. I'm sure we'll Instagram. I'm sure we'll Facebook. I'm sure we'll YouTube the whole thing. It won't take that long. How long does it take to open up a pumpkin? I'm making sure that I keep some, what do I do with all the carcass? Fill up the dumpster? It probably will. It weighs, 440 pounds or something like that. So that should be fun. Mark it, November 3. We've got a pumpkin cutting open. I got to think of a good name for that. If you got a good name, email that to me. I'm sure we're going to Instagram that. It's Instagram /Waters Garden Center AZ. That's our Instagram handle. Facebook, we'll post it there. It's going to be Facebook /Waters Garden Center. I know it's not a very original thing, but there we go. And then Twitter will be Waters Garden Center Twitter. You know where to find us if you want. We'll post photos. You can watch it live streamed on Facebook. I'm sure we'll capture some YouTube stuff. Or just better yet, come visit. Hang out with us. It's kind of cool to see. I'm hoping lots of kids come, so we're trying to get the word out on that one. So Ken and Lisa Lane, we hang out here at Waters Garden Center throughout the week. We love talking gardening with friends, with neighbors, with gardeners. Come in and say hi. Take a look at what's going on in the Fall Garden Center this week.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Gardening has always come natural to me. Green thumbs, they just run in the family. So when the Family Garden Center was offered to Lisa and I, we jumped on the opportunity. I've always loved coming to the nursery, being surrounded by all the beauty, helping the backyard gardener and passing on some of that natural magic that happens so easily for me. We aren't just selling plants, we're offering garden success. My name is Ken Lane, owner, and you'll feel the magic here at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road, here in Prescott.
You've been listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, the owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join him each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to the area. He can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center, located in Prescott at 1815 Iron Springs Road. Thanks for tuning in to The Mountain Gardener.